The weight in my chest told me the truth. I had done this. I found a hidden door in my basement, and what I discovered shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. I've lived in this house for over a year now, an old creaking structure built in the 1920s. It stands in a quiet neighborhood where every house seems to whisper secrets of the past. The previous owner, an elderly man, had died alone, and his family, eager to move on, sold the house quickly, leaving behind an air of unfinished business. People in town spoke in hushed tones about the basement, calling it strange or off, but I dismissed it as small-town superstition. Yet from the moment I moved in, I sensed something was wrong. It wasn't just the usual unease of an old house settling at night. It was the basement, a lingering coldness that refused to dissipate, even in the height of summer. The walls seemed uneven, as though they'd been patched hastily, and there were cracks and seams in places where there shouldn't be. At first I ignored it, but annoying curiosity grew inside me. I felt watched. Then, last month, I made the mistake of looking deeper. I was clearing out the basement, shifting old furniture, when I moved a heavy wooden shelf and heard a hollow thud. My pulse quickened. I knocked on the wall behind it. Hollow. Heart pounding. I ran my fingers along the edges, feeling for any inconsistency. And then I found it, a loose panel. With a deep breath, I pried it open, revealing something I never expected, a hidden door. There was no handle, just a small rusted keyhole, nearly concealed by time and dust. It looked like it had been hidden deliberately. The sight of it sent a shiver down my spine, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to know what was behind it. For days, I searched the house for a key. It wasn't until I rifled through an old drawer in the kitchen that I found it. Wrapped in a brittle, yellowed piece of paper, a rusted key lay waiting. My fingers trembled as I fit it into the lock. It turned with a reluctant click. The door groaned open, exhaling a foul, stagnant breath that reeked of decay and time. My flashlight beam cut through the thick darkness, revealing a small, windowless room. The air was heavy, suffocating, and the walls were covered in symbols, scratched into the surface like desperate warnings or ancient spells. In the center of the room sat a wooden chair, its presence strangely ominous, as though someone had only just stood up from it. Next to it, a single object, a notebook, worn and cracked with age. I hesitated before picking it up. Inside, a list of names and dates filled the pages, some of them nearly faded beyond recognition. Then a final entry, dated 3 years ago. My chest tightened as I read the words. I am still here. I don't know how long it's been. Time doesn't work the way it should. If you find this, if you remember, it means it's happening again. And then I saw it. Taped to the wall beside the chair was a Polaroid photo. My breath hitched in my throat. It showed the chair, the exact same chair in front of me, but it wasn't empty. There was someone sitting in it. Me. My mind rebelled. No, this was a trick, a joke, an elaborate prank. But the more I stared, the more details became undeniable. The clothes, the scar on my wrist, the distant, haunted eyes staring back at me. I stumbled back, heart hammering. I had never been in this room before. I had never sat in that chair. So how? A sharp whisper filled the air, slithering through the silence like a breath from the void. My own voice. Do you remember now? My flashlight flickered, plunging the room into suffocating darkness. I reached for the door, but my limbs felt slow, heavy, like I was sinking into the floor itself. The walls groaned, the symbols seemed to writhe, and a flood of memories surged through me like an electric shock. I saw myself moving into this house. I saw myself searching for the key. I saw myself opening the door. I saw myself sitting in that chair, and then I saw the truth. The elderly man who had died alone, the one whose family had hurried to sell the house, the whispers about the basement, the unfinished business. It had been me. I had died in this house a long time ago. I staggered backward, but there was nowhere to run. The room was swallowing me, pulling me into the cold embrace of a truth I had refused to see. I wasn't investigating the past, I was repeating it. Again and again and again. A part of me screamed. Another part, the one that had been here before, simply sighed in resignation. As my vision dimmed and the last of my awareness faded into the void, I heard the door creak shut behind me, and I knew someone else would find it soon. just like I had, just like I always would.
I never wanted to inherit my grandfather's old cabin, but after he passed, it seemed like a sign. My ex, Jason, had been stalking me for months, showing up at my apartment, sending me messages from different numbers. The police were useless. When I saw the deed in my name, I packed up and left. A secluded cabin in the middle of the woods? It sounded perfect. At first, it was exactly what I needed. The silence was intoxicating. No city noise, no fear of Jason lurking outside my window. My productivity soared, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. Then I found the first doll. It was a crude little thing, twigs tied together with twine, a tiny skull, maybe a bird's, where the head should be. It sat in the middle of my yard, facing the cabin. I brushed it off as some backwoods superstition, maybe kids playing pranks. The next morning, there were 3 more, each one closer to the house. That night, I locked every door and window. But when I woke up, they were inside, scattered across my living room floor like a warning. My stomach twisted. Someone had been inside. Someone was watching me. I called the police. They arrived in less than an hour. 2 officers, one older, one younger. They checked the perimeter and found no signs of forced entry. Then one of them suggested checking the basement. I had never gone down there. My grandfather never let me, saying it was dangerous, that the foundation was weak. But when the officers pried open the heavy wooden door, a stench crawled up the steps, decay, rot, something wet and foul. And there, sprawled across the dirt floor, was Jason, or at least what was left of him. His body had been stripped of chunks of flesh, bones missing, his face frozen in an expression of pure terror. I stumbled back, my mind racing. I had been alone this whole time. Hadn't I? Then I remembered. The ritual. A memory came flooding back. A desperate night. Candles, whispered words from my grandfather's old grimoire. A protection spell, I had thought. Something to keep Jason away, to make me safe. But I had felt something enter me that night. A presence. A cold whisper in the back of my skull. And then I blacked out. Before I could speak, a sharp crack echoed through the house. The younger officer let out a choked gurgle as blood bubbled from his lips. The older one barely had time to reach for his gun before something unseen twisted his neck at an unnatural angle. They collapsed, lifeless. And I stood there, trembling. The weight in my chest told me the truth. I had done this, or rather, she had. I could feel her now, coiling in the depths of my mind. The spirit of something ancient, something my grandfather had tried to keep at bay. The woods had never been empty. The dolls, the whispers, the cold that settled into my bones every night, it had all been warnings. And now I had let her out. I don't know what to do. I can't call the police again. I can't leave. My body is no longer just mine. I can feel her waiting, watching. And I know that when night falls, she will take over again. And I don't think I'll wake up next time.
I needed a fresh start. A cheap apartment in a quiet part of town sounded perfect. The place was old but spacious, and the landlord didn't ask too many questions. Just a warning. The walls are thin. You'll hear things. Ignore them. At first, it was just creaks and groans, typical old building noises. But then I started noticing patterns. A deep inhale at night, a low, shuddering exhale in the morning, as if the apartment itself was breathing. I tried to ignore it, until the night I went to hang a picture. As soon as I drove the nail into the wall, something oozed out. Thick, dark red, almost black. It wasn't paint, it was wet. It dripped down the wall in sluggish rivulets, and then the walls shuddered. A sound filled the room, low and guttural, like a sob, like something in pain. I stumbled back, heart pounding. The room felt wrong. The air was heavier, pressing against my skin. I ran to the kitchen for paper towels, but when I turned back, the wall had absorbed the blood. Only a faint, pulsing redness remained beneath the surface, like bruised flesh. I should have left then, but curiosity or stupidity kept me here. Now, as I write this, the apartment is changing. The walls aren't just breathing anymore. They're moving, closing in inch by inch. My door won't budge, the windows won't open. The air is thick, damp, and hot, like a mouth about to swallow. I can hear it now, a rhythmic pulse, a deep, wet swallowing noise coming from somewhere inside the walls. I think I was never supposed to move in. I think this place was waiting for someone. And now that I'm here, it doesn't want to let me go. If anyone finds this, tell them. The apartment is hungry.
I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I've lost it, but I'm running out of time. My name's Sam Carter, I'm 34, and I bought this house a year ago, thinking it was my fresh start. I just lost my job as a graphic designer, downsized after 10 years, and my fiancé left me when the money ran dry. I was drowning in debt, so when I found this Victorian fixer-upper in a nowhere town called Elmswood, I jumped at it. Huge place, wraparound porch, stained glass windows, all for $50,000. The realtor, a nervous guy named Ed, called it a steal with character. I should have asked what he meant. I've been living here 9 months, and I'm pretty sure this house is alive, and it wants me to stay. The first night, I was unpacking boxes in the living room, surrounded by peeling wallpaper and the smell of old wood. Around midnight, I heard it, a long, deep exhale like someone letting out a breath they'd held too long. It came from everywhere, the walls, the ceiling, the floor. I froze, waiting for it to stop, but it didn't. It was rhythmic, in and out, slow and deliberate, like the house was breathing. I checked the windows, closed. The furnace, off. The attic, empty except for cobwebs. I told myself it was pipes, drafts, anything normal. But it happened again the next night, and the next, always at midnight, always louder when I was alone. A week in, the door started acting up. I leave the kitchen door open while making coffee, turn around, and it'd be shut, the knob cold to the touch. Same with the bathroom, the study, every room. I thought the floors were slanted, so I tested it, wedged a heavy chair against the dining room door one night. I was reading in bed when I heard the breathing again, closer now like it was in the room. Then a crash. The chair was on its side, the door closed, and the air felt thick like I was breathing someone else's breath. I started locking my bedroom door, but I'd wake up to find it cracked open, just an inch, the hallway dark and silent except for that endless inhale, exhale. The house has these old mirrors built into the walls, their frames carved with vines and flowers. They're beautiful but tarnished, the glass cloudy. About a month in, I noticed something wrong with them. My reflection was delayed. I'd raise my hand, and it'd follow a half second later, like it was deciding to move. Sometimes I'd catch it smiling when I wasn't, or its eyes would linger on me when I turned away. One night, I was brushing my teeth, and my reflection didn't move at all, just stared, its eyes too dark, its face too still. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel, but by morning, the towel was on the floor, and the reflection was back, closer now like it was pressed against the glass. I started digging into the house's history. The town library had microfiche records, and I found a clipping from 1923 about a family who lived here, a doctor, his wife, and their daughter. They vanished one night. No trace, no explanation. The article mentioned strange noises reported by neighbors, but the police wrote it off. There was another story from 1956 about a tenant who claimed the house watched him before he disappeared too. The librarian, an old woman with shaky hands, warned me to respect the house. "It's particular," she said, and wouldn't meet my eyes. I laughed it off, but I couldn't shake the feeling she knew more. The breathing got worse. It wasn't just at night anymore. It followed me, echoing in the kitchen while I cooked, humming in the shower. The walls started to feel soft, like they were pulsing under my fingers, warm and damp. Furniture would shift when I wasn't looking. A chair an inch to the left, a table turned backward. Once I found my keys embedded in the living room wall, like the plaster had swallowed them and spit them out. I'd hear whispers too, not words, but sounds like my name, stretched and distorted, coming from the mirrors. I smashed one in the hallway, but the shards reformed overnight. The mirror whole again, my reflection smirking. I tried to leave 3 months ago. Packed a duffel bag, got in my car, but it wouldn't start. The battery was fine, the gas tank full, but the engine just clicked. I called a tow truck, and when the driver arrived, the car roared to life like nothing was wrong. I drove to a motel 20 miles away, checked in, and fell asleep. When I woke up, I was back in my bed, the duffel bag unpacked, the car parked in the driveway. My phone showed no record of the motel call, no receipt, nothing. I tried again last week, made it to the bus station, bought a ticket. I blinked, and I was back in the house, the ticket gone, the breathing so loud it rattled my bones. The mirrors are the worst now. They don't just show me anymore. Sometimes I see others, shadowy figures, their faces blurred, standing behind my reflection. A woman in a long dress, a girl with pigtails, a man with hollow eyes. They don't move, just watch, but last night the girl reached out, her hand pressing against the glass from the inside. I heard her voice, clear as day. Stay with us. I ran to the basement, the only place without mirrors, but the breathing followed, and the walls down there were slick, like they were sweating. I found scratches in the concrete, deep and frantic, spelling out, "We are here." I'm writing this from the attic, the only place I feel halfway safe, but I can hear the house below me. Inhaling, exhaling, louder than ever. The air's heavy, and my skin feels wrong, too tight like it's hardening. I keep finding marks on my arms, faint patterns like veins, but they pulse when I touch them. The mirrors are calling my name now, not whispering, but singing, soft and sweet, promising I'll never be alone if I just look. I don't want to, but I'm so tired. The doors won't open, the windows won't break, and the breathing's inside me now, matching my heartbeat. If you're reading this, don't come to Elmswood. Don't buy a house that's too cheap. Don't ignore the signs. This place isn't just haunted, it's alive and it's hungry. I think it's been waiting for me, for all of us, the ones who disappeared. I'm scared I'm not Sam anymore. I'm scared I'm becoming the house. The mirrors are so close now, and I can feel them watching, waiting for me to join them. I don't know how much longer I can fight it. The breathing's all I hear, and it's calling me home.
I'm shaking as I write this, but I need to tell someone before it happens again. My name's Mia Torres, I'm 28, and I moved into this rental house last fall, hoping for a fresh start after a brutal breakup. I'm a graphic designer, freelancing, and I needed somewhere cheap and quiet to rebuild my life. The bungalow I found was perfect, cozy, with a little yard for my dog, Rusty, a mutt who's been my rock for years. The rent was suspiciously low, but I didn't ask questions. I wish I had. I've been here 6 months, and I found a room in this house that shouldn't exist. It knows my name, and I think it's coming for me. It started with Rusty. He's a chill dog, always glued to my side, but a few days after we moved in, he started fixating on this spot in the hallway near the back of the house. It's just a blank wall, no doors, no windows, but he'd stand there, staring, his hackles up, letting out this low, guttural growl. I checked the spot. Nothing but faded paint and a faint, musty smell. I thought he was spooked by the move, maybe hearing mice in the walls. But then I started hearing it too. Soft thumps, like someone knocking from the other side, faint and irregular. I'd press my ear to the wall, and sometimes there'd be whispers, too quiet to make out, but they sounded desperate, like someone pleading. I told myself it was the neighbors or old plumbing, but my gut knew better. About a month in, things got weirder. I'd leave my sketchbook on the coffee table, come back, and find it open to a blank page with faint pencil marks I didn't make, loops and slashes, like someone was trying to write. The lights in the hallway would flicker, but only near that wall. Rusty stopped sleeping in my room. He'd pace the house at night, always ending up at that spot, whining. One evening, I caught him scratching at the wall, his claws leaving shallow marks. I pulled him away, but I noticed the paint was peeling where he'd scratched, revealing something underneath. Not plaster, but wood, dark and warped like an old door. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm stubborn, always have been, and I needed to know what was going on. One night, Rusty went ballistic, barking, clawing at the wall, his eyes wild. I don't know what came over me, but I grabbed a hammer from the garage and started smashing the spot he was focused on. The plaster crumbled, and there it was, a door, heavy and wooden, with a rusted knob and carvings I couldn't quite make out, swirls that looked like faces or maybe hands. It wasn't on the rental agreement, the house plans, nothing. My hands were shaking, but I turned the knob. It creaked open, and a wave of cold air hit me, thick with the smell of wet earth and something sour, like rotting fruit. Inside was a room, maybe 10 by 10, with peeling wallpaper that shimmered faintly, like it was woven with silver threads. The floor was bare wood, stained dark, and in the center was a single chair, old, splintered, with scratches gouged into the arms. The walls were covered in marks, deep claw marks, some spelling out words I couldn't read, others forming shapes that made my head hurt to look at. There was no light source, but the room glowed faintly, like the air itself was luminescent. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, yanking at the knob, but it wouldn't move. That's when the whispers started again, louder, saying my name, Mia, 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 over and over like a chant. I pounded on the door, screaming for Rusty, and I swear I felt the walls pulse like they were breathing. I don't know how long I was in there, minutes, hours. The whispers grew into voices, some soft, some angry, all overlapping. I saw things in the corners of my eyes, shadows that moved like people, but too thin, too wrong. The chair creaked, like someone had sat down, but it was empty. I kept banging on the door, my knuckles bleeding, until Rusty's barking broke through. The door flew open, and I stumbled into the hallway, gasping. I turned back, and the room was gone, just the wall, patched up like I'd never touched it. But my hammer was on the floor, its handle splintered, and my hands were covered in scratches I didn't remember getting. I called the property manager, a woman named Claire, and demanded answers. She got quiet, then said she'd never heard of a room like that. When I pressed, she hung up. I went to the county records office and pulled the house's blueprints. Nothing, no extra room, just the hallway. But I found an old article from 1978 about a tenant, a young woman, who went missing after telling friends she'd found a door that wasn't supposed to be there. The case was never solved. I started asking neighbors, and most avoided me, but an old man down the street, Mr. Hensley, said the house had a bad history. He wouldn't elaborate, just told me to move out and don't open what's closed. I tried to ignore it, but the room kept coming back. I'd wake up to Rusty growling, and the wall would be different, cracked, or bulging slightly, like something was pushing from the other side. My stuff started appearing in the hallway, my keys, my phone, even a necklace I hadn't worn in years, all arranged in a neat circle by the wall. Rusty changed too. He'd stare at me sometimes, his eyes dull, like he didn't recognize me. Once, he bared his teeth when I tried to pet him, then whimpered and ran to the wall, pawing at it. I stopped sleeping. Every night, I'd hear the knocking, the whispers, and sometimes a new sound, a low hum, like a lullaby coming from the wall. Last week, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the hammer again, ready to break the wall down for good. But before I could swing, the plaster split on its own, and the door was there wide open. The room was different this time. Bigger, the walls glistening like they were wet, the chair gone, replaced by a pile of dirt and bones, small ones like a child's. The whispers were deafening, screaming my name, and I saw them, figures in the walls, pressed against the wallpaper, their hands reaching out, their mouths moving. I ran, but the hallway stretched, the door getting farther away. Rusty was barking, but his voice sounded wrong, like he was inside the room with me. I don't know how I got out, but I woke up on the couch, my arms covered in fresh scratches, some deep enough to scar. The wall was whole again, but there was dirt under my nails, and my necklace was gone. I'm writing this from a coffee shop because I can't stay in the house anymore. Rusty's with me, but he's not himself. He keeps looking behind us, growling at nothing. I found a photo on my phone this morning, one I didn't take. It's me, standing in that room, my face blank, my eyes glowing like the walls. The scratches on my arms are worse, and they're forming patterns now, swirls, like the carvings on the door. I hear the whispers even here, faint, calling me back. I think the room's not just in the house anymore. It's in me. If you're reading this, don't rent a place that's too cheap. Don't ignore your dog when he's scared. And if you find a door that shouldn't be there, don't open it. I'm going back tonight. I have to find Rusty's collar. It's all I have left of him. But I'm scared the room's waiting, and this time, it won't let me leave. The whispers are louder now, and they're singing my name.
I don't know if I'll make it through writing this, but I have to try. My name's Jake Ellison, I'm 41, and 2 years ago, my wife, Sarah, and I bought our dream home, a sprawling colonial in a quiet suburb called Willow Creek. We'd been through hell before that, losing our first pregnancy and nearly our marriage, but we were rebuilding, planning for a family. This house was supposed to be our fresh start, our forever home. Now Sarah's gone, I'm trapped, and I'm starting to think the house isn't just haunted, it's keeping us, and it's never letting go. We moved in on a sunny June day, giddy like kids. The house was stunning, oak floors, high ceilings, a fireplace big enough to stand in. Sure, it needed work, cracked plaster, drafty windows, but we loved its charm. The only odd thing was the smell, faint at first, like damp earth and ash, lingering in the corners. We thought it was just old house funk and ignored it. The first weird thing happened a week later. We'd hung family photos in the living room, us at our wedding, hiking in Colorado, laughing at a barbecue. One morning, I noticed they'd changed. Not the frames, but the pictures. Our smiles were gone, our eyes blank, staring at something off frame. I showed Sarah, and she laughed, said it was bad lighting or a printing glitch. We replaced them, but by the next day, they were wrong again, our faces pale, our hands clasped too tightly, like we were scared. It got worse. New photos started appearing, ones we didn't take. Us sleeping in bed, eating dinner, arguing in the kitchen, always with those empty eyes, always watching something we couldn't see. We'd tear them down, burn them in the backyard, but they'd be back by morning, nailed to the walls, the nails rusted and dripping something dark. Sarah started joking less, her laugh forced. She'd always been the optimist, the one who'd pull me out of my slumps, but I could see her unraveling. I wanted to believe it was stress, but deep down I knew it was the house. Then came the footsteps. Every night, around 2 a.m., heavy steps paced the upstairs hallway, slow and deliberate, like someone measuring the floor. We'd check, flashlights shaking, but the hallway was empty, the air cold and thick. Sarah swore she saw shadows, tall, thin, flickering at the edges of her vision, but they'd vanish when she looked directly. I didn't believe her until I saw them too, gliding across the dining room, their shapes bending like smoke. The smell got stronger, clogging my throat, and the walls felt wrong, soft, almost sticky, like they were sweating. Once, I touched the staircase banister, and it pulsed under my fingers, warm and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. We tried to get help. A priest came, blessed the house, but left pale, muttering about something heavy in the air. A medium we found online took one step inside, froze, and ran, saying the house wanted something. I dug into the town's history at the library, finding a 1901 article about the house's first owner, a widower who built it for his late wife. He disappeared after neighbors reported screams and lights coming from the property. Another record, from 1964, mentioned a family who vanished, leaving behind photos defaced with strange marks. The librarian, a gruff woman named Doris, warned me to leave. "That house holds on," she said, her voice low. I should have listened. Sarah changed first. She'd sit for hours, staring at the walls, whispering to herself words I couldn't catch, like a prayer or a plea. Her eyes were different, glassy, and she'd smile at nothing, her lips twitching like she was answering someone. I'd find her in the middle of the night, standing in the hallway, swaying to the rhythm of the footsteps. "They're family," she'd say, her voice soft. "They want us to stay." I begged her to leave, but she'd scream, saying the house needed us, that we belonged to it. I packed bags, ready to drag her out, but the doors wouldn't open. The locks turned, the knobs spun, but the wood wouldn't budge. Windows shattered when I hit them, then reformed, the glass knitting itself back together. The photos were everywhere now, covering every wall, showing us in places we'd never been. A dark room, a field of ash, a circle of shadows. Some showed Sarah alone, her face twisted, her hands reaching out. I found carvings in the basement door, names, dozens of them, etched deep, some fresh, some worn. I recognized one, Margaret, the widower's wife from the article. The smell was choking down there, like rotten copper, and the air buzzed, like a swarm of flies just out of sight. I stopped sleeping, kept a knife under my pillow, but the footsteps were louder, circling my bed, and the shadows were bolder, brushing my skin, cold as ice. One night, I woke to Sarah's voice, singing a lullaby I'd never heard, low and wrong. She wasn't in bed. I followed the sound to the basement, my flashlight flickering. The door was open, and the smell hit me like a wall. Sarah stood in the dark, surrounded by photos, hundreds of them, pinned to the walls, the floor, the ceiling. They showed her, but not her. Her face was sharper, her eyes black, her smile too wide. Shadows moved behind her, tall and thin, their hands on her shoulders. "We stay," she said, her voice layered, like others were speaking through her. I grabbed her arm, but her skin was cold, slick, like it wasn't hers anymore. The shadows lunged, and the air crushed me heavy and hot. I blacked out. When I woke, Sarah was gone. The photos were blank, just empty paper in rusted frames. The carvings on the basement door had a new name, Sarah. I searched every inch of the house, called the police, but they found nothing. No sign of her, no record of the photos. The house is quiet now, but it's watching. The shadows linger in the corners, and the smell never leaves. I hear Sarah's voice sometimes, whispering from the walls, singing that lullaby, telling me to join her. The doors won't open, the windows won't break, and the photos are back, new ones, showing me, my eyes blank, my hands carving my own name into the basement door. I'm writing this from the attic, the only place the shadows don't reach, but I can feel the house breathing, its pulse in the floorboards, its hunger in the air. My skin's changing, pale, too smooth, like the walls. I found a photo in my pocket this morning, one I didn't take. It's me, standing in the basement, smiling, shadows behind me, my name carved above my head. The singing's louder now, and it's not just Sarah, it's all of them, the family that stayed. They're calling me and I'm so tired. I don't think I'm Jake anymore. I think I'm the house. If you're reading this, don't buy a house with a history you don't know. Don't ignore the signs, the smells, the sounds, the things that don't belong. Willow Creek is a trap, and this house is alive. It's keeping us, all of us, forever. I can hear the footsteps again coming up the attic stairs, and the photos are here, watching. I don't want to stay, but I don't think I have a choice. The house is singing, and it's my name now.